Okay, on. It's on air. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rodrigo. Today is the June 8th, 2014, and this is our third edition of Handball Hangout in English-speaking language. And today we have a guest directly from London, UK. His name is JORDI FERRER-TORRAS. He is a player of the London GD Handball Club, current Super 8 champion, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about his story in handball, this championship the club won in England, and also the legacy of the 2012 games, which is something that we have always been curious to know. How is handball in England since the London games, which is like almost 2 years ago? We're gonna talk about these subjects, and if you have any other questions, just use the question answer, the Q&A app that I have downloaded and installed over here. You can just type a question over there and ask him. It's very quick. So, Jordi, thank you very much for joining us directly from London. Welcome to Canal Handball. And first of all, tell us your story in handball. How old were you when you started playing handball?
Well, yeah, thank you first of all, Rodrigo, for inviting me today.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have people like you promoting the sport that we all love, and especially from Brazil,
Yeah.
which is now a hot location clearly with also the World Cup coming. But yeah, so my story, I've been in the UK since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
I landed here in London, and from that point I joined London GD, which was formerly known as Great Dane, and we can talk a little bit about that if you want, around like the history of the club. Before that, I was in the US, so I was in the East Coast for kind of finishing my studies and started to work in New York, and I played for New York Athletic Club over there, handball-wise, of course, and which is different than the New York City team that now doing a great job on social media, and it's quite interesting because it's like a huge derby, and we can go on some details about that too. And prior to that, I'm originally from Barcelona in Spain, and lucky enough to have been a member of one of the best handball clubs in history. I was, I think, 13 or 14 when I joined FC Barcelona, so the handball arm of the football club that we all know with Messi and the likes, and they, the same basically club and team that's just been in Cologne for the Final Four. Not a lucky one this time, but so I played for all the youth teams on the under 15, under 17, and then at junior level. So I was lucky to play some Champions League games back then as a junior. So it's not like, I wouldn't play against Kiel and the likes, but in some of the previous phases, I would be supporting the team and in all the trainings and some important league games actually as well, La Liga. So I've got the Spanish Championship, the American Championship, and the English one. So I'm not sure if there's many people who can say that.
Yeah. Very one of the few ones to have this curriculum on yours. When you told that you landed in London, but I want to talk about this Barcelona experience. You said that you played for the junior team, or did you play for the adult team? How long did you play for Barcelona?
Well, so yeah, and I didn't say when I started. But I started playing handball when I was 7 or so in the school, in the French school, and then I was basically scouted, I guess, and invited to do a trial when I was 13 or so. So since I was 13, 14 until I was 24, that's been about a good 10 years in the club. And it just goes to the point, like, spend 2 years on the under 15s, 2 years on the under 17s, and then there's like 3-4 years junior. And it's at that time when I think it was 1999, my first season with the first team. So being a junior, in Spain back in the day, there were about between 4 and 6 slots for juniors that could support the first team. So in each game, they would have 14 seats for senior members and 2 that could be filled by juniors. So I was one of those lucky six. And the campaign 1999-2000 was a unique in history where Barcelona won every single title. That was 7 out of 7 because there were some national ones, but other than La Liga, La Copa del Rey, La Copa Sobal, there's this the Super Cup in Spain. There was a Super Cup in Europe, the Champions League, and there was some sort of like a French Pyrenees competition. So any competition they played, I was there, but obviously I was one of the youngest juniors. So I didn't have any big impact, but I was lucky to be in the changing room with players like Thomas Svensson, Enric Masip, Andrei Chepkin, Barrufet, Rafa Gijosa, Patrick Chavar. I mean, I don't know if you know all of those names. They're a bit of an old generation now, but they've been all fantastic players, and they're part of the dream team that won. I don't know if it was 4 or 5 Champions Leagues in a row, which is something unheard of. I think Gummersbach has been the closest amazing thing in Europe, but yeah, I was very lucky. So 1999-2000 was the first season, and then I was having a bigger impact 2000-2001, finally 2001-2002. Although those 2 last seasons were not the best at Barcelona, there was Poland, San Antonio, with Jackson Richardson and the likes. So we're talking about one of the times when in Spain, Handball was still very big and money was flowing. There were multiple strong teams. There was still Santander, the likes. So I think San Antonio managed to beat us in the league, and they qualified for Europe. So we played a couple of seasons on EHF as well. EHF Cup.
During that time, I want to ask, that time that you played in Barcelona, whenever you played, were the fans like showing up to the games in a big number to come up and show their support? How was this fan base that you had at the time following you each game?
Barcelona, it's a special club, and in good and sometimes in bad senses, because there's so many, like, we call it more than a club, because it's really about football. So it's got the handball section, it's got the basketball section very strong. They've been also European champions for a few times, and there's hockey, ice hockey. There's the roller hockey. There is futsal now. There was rugby, so there's loads of disciplines where Barcelona would have a team. That means it's so spread that it's difficult to concentrate a lot of fans. So where I'm going is that some of the league games would not have a huge attendance. So Palau Blaugrana, the stadium, I think it's got capacity for, I don't know, a good 9,000 spectators. But then in the league games, for regular league games, you would have sometimes under 1,000. Like it would feel relatively empty, and that's a little bit sad. But it's just the fact that in the city there's so much offering to go and watch that the football gets all most of the attention. Then it comes basketball, and thirdly perhaps handball. Now that being said, when I was talking about the last years when I had a little bit bigger impact, I remember a game against Poland San Antonio, which was a league decider. And then you would have, 6,000-7,000 people in the stadium, to have supporting the team, and that would be amazing, right? So I will always remember that game. I actually scored 1 goal, but I also missed another one, and the feeling was just going from the top to the bottom. So when you scored, you've got 6,000 people at least going, like the adrenaline that you get from the scoring, right? Like similar, I guess, to football, is just a handball goal. But then the one I missed, that I had, you hear a complete disappointment from 6,000 people going,
yeah.
And you're running back to the defense thinking, oh my God, I just missed, and I've got 6,000 people on the back there. Right? So yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I can imagine this both sides of the team. Many players talk about it. When did you first arrive in London and start playing for London GD?
So yeah, that was May 2007. And I remember that very well because it was the end of a season that I just arrived and I started checking for a club, and they were playing back in the day the league would have playoffs, so it was the semi-final of the league playoffs against I think it was Manchester University, and in that time, Manchester University had a pretty decent team and composed with some foreigners as well. I saw them lose, so I saw London GD. I couldn't participate because I just had arrived and they didn't know me. I just showed up and say, hey, can I guys join you? And I say, well, come and watch our game if you want, but it's sort of now end of the season, so you're not gonna be playing. But for next season definitely, because they were very keen. Like, oh, a guy from Barcelona, Spanish guy, he must be all right. So I saw them lose that championship in 2007, and my first season with London GD was 07-08. So
How did you do?
It was great. I think we made the double, if I remember right. We can go and check in the history, sort of in the achievements section of our website. We won league and cup on that first season, so it was good. I was very pleased, and then so we're there. Yeah.
Exactly. So you made a very good first impression. And did you change your position when you moved to London, or did you keep playing for the same position?
So I'm originally a centre back.
Okay.
But I'm only around 6 foot 184. So when I played Barcelona first team, I was a winger, right? I was a left wing. And that's obvious, right? Because in Barcelona, playing centre back, you got to have a good power for the shot. And I mean, there's been some exceptions, like O'Callaghan. I don't know if you remember that player. He was Catalan but with an Irish last name. And I think they saw in me a potential replacement for him, like a similar type of player, not very strong, not very physical, but still, very tactical, very kind of, knowledgeable and organizing the game, like an old school centre back. So that time is when I changed, but then obviously when I traveled abroad in the US and in London, I went back to my natural position in the center. So that's been where I've mostly played in England.
I want to talk about this last season that you won for London. To me, it was a very amazing season because out of 14 games, you lost just 2 and won the rest of them. And was this team different from the other teams? And how would you say, how would you evaluate this campaign? What were the successful items of this team to succeed and win this title with this campaign?
It's been an okay campaign. I wouldn't say it's been the best. And the perfect campaign is winning all the games. So we had 2 losses, 2 defeats against the team that perhaps it's always been hard. Lately, it's a derby. It's a London derby. So we lost 2 games against Ruislip. How you pronounce it? Spelled Ruislip, but you pronounce it Ruislip in West London. And they've come a long way in the last 2 or 3 years. They've progressed and they've managed to catch up and really always give us a hard time. So we lost those 2 games that perhaps we shouldn't have lost, but it happens. Now that was perhaps the lows of the season, but the successful items were clearly the 2 wins against Salford, right? Which is the team that has ended up at the top with us, but that thanks to in our favor the goal difference on a head-to-head in this case has given us the title. And to be honest, it's been great. I mean, those are the type of games that at the elite level here we all enjoy playing, and it's been great to see them also coming a long way, because Salford, as you know, I think you've had a chat with some of their guys. They're mostly composed of English players. Which is something that a few years back you would never have thought, and they've progressed a lot. They've got a good development plan, and they have an exchange program where they send players to Denmark for about maybe 1 or 2 seasons, and then they get them back, and then they send others over there. So those players have improved a lot, and they're giving us, and when I say us, it's London GD. Unfortunately, so far it's still very much based on foreign players because we're in London, and we're lucky enough to be obviously recruiting from people coming to work in the city, and from many countries in Europe. So we're a little bit of a UN team, not many English so far, although we have a young promise, left-handed guy, Will Moore, who is he could be a very good player. I think it's 17 years old and it's 2 meters, so a good 198, 2 meters, I think. And we need to look after him because he's he's a left-handed guy who can play right back, and we're trying to get him slowly up, but he needs to get some experience, he needs to get some weight, needs to do some workout, and yeah, he's joined the GB under 20s. So he's doing a good effort there, and going to train not always with us but also with some other teams a bit more at his age. But he's been coming to our trainings, which makes him a very good impact, because obviously he's only 17 and he's training now with people that are in their mid-20s, mid-30s like myself. So quite some experience, and yeah. So summary, the season was okay. I think we won the games that mattered ultimately. There's some discussions around if that was fair or not, because some leagues are decided by head-to-head difference first. Other leagues are decided by general goal difference, like in Germany, where Kiel made the surprise this year in the end, thanks to the goal difference, the general one. But here in England, I think what was discussed is that there's not so many strong teams, so it would be a shame to lose the league thanks to the difference in games against the lower end of the table. So it was decided that it would be head-to-head first, because ultimately, beating Salford was a big sign. I mean, we are the only team that's managed to beat them this season.
And you said that you were also, or what I heard, you also work for a development office in London. And yes. How is that so? And what is your job in there?
Well, to start with, it's not really a job. It's a volunteering position. It's okay. I mean, as we all do here in the club, we're not professional club, unfortunately, yet. So no one gets paid for what we do, that being coaching, playing, or in my case, trying to develop. So the development director role it's kind of like part of my hobby, and it's I'm a bit crazy about handball. As you can see, I've been playing my whole life in different countries. So it's that that's, I suppose, ambition to get it up in a country where it's not so known. So development role here in London GD is about getting more people to play and get more teams, more the structure of the club. I mean, it's grown a lot. When I arrived in 2007, it was just purely a men's and a ladies adult team, so 2 teams, and we currently have 3 men's and 2 ladies. So the growth, you can see, it's more than double in a way. And I'm working to see if I can get the kids playing, right, and to be able to say we have a London GD youth structure, and that's been the most challenging. And we all know it's where we need to start by getting the kids playing the sport and what they call here in England the grassroots. And that's the primary focus of the England Handball Association. So the money that gets pumped in by the governmental organization, it's called Sport England, they send money to the NGBs, the national government bodies, for them to develop a sport, and the focus is at the bottom of the pyramid. It's on the youth, it's on the kids. So us as a club, it's challenging because we are sustained by our adult members. So as I said, no one gets paid, but the opposite. So for all of us to play handball, we need to contribute. We need to pay our monthly fee towards the trainings, because we need to pay the hire of the hall. We need to pay our own trips. We need to pay our equipment, and basically it's a bit of an expensive hobby, but we all love it, and we come to London, we miss it, we want to continue playing the sport we love, and that's why we do it. So my role in development has been finding ways to expand, finding ways to promote, getting up to speed on some of the social media, and that's more for I suppose a marketing or PR role, but I'm doing everything I can to just get the sport a bit more known. And on the youth, as I said, we're working with some schools right now. It's just difficult to hit critical mass, meaning we can get 6 kids to come, maybe 8, 10, but can you get sustaining like 14, 20 kids so that you can say, right, and from the same age, so we can say we have a team, London DD. I mean, at the moment it's been a struggle because we have a variety of kids, and some girls, some boys, different ages, right? So some are 8, 9, 11, 12, or 14, 15. It's just difficult. There's so much competition out there from the sports like football, cricket, rugby, and then of course all the other minority sports that are trying to do the same, right? So you've got basketball trying to get people, volleyball, water polo, etc.
And I wanted to talk also about this. You said that you mentioned you arrived in London before 2012. So after the London Games, and nowadays that I read that you play many games in the Cooper box where they had the Olympics. All the games were there. Did it bring many changes? And I also asked you this when we had our written interview some months ago. But did you see many changes, like in interest in handball? People use the word legacy, but I want to focus on the interest, and people are trying to get to know what handball is all about and try to play, give it a shot, see a big arena that hosted the Olympics. What were the main changes that you saw before and after the London Games?
Well, clearly, it's been a change, and it's been a help for us. The way to exemplify it is, when the Olympics finished at the end of August 2012, we started open sessions for beginners. So, we invited everyone to come and try, as you said. And we received the whole, like hundreds of emails asking, if they could join, if they could try. And they seem to be keen. So I figured, well, let me see how far can we get this, and just no limitation, which was a bit risky, right? Because I said, yeah, you can come, yeah, sure, feel free. So we ended up in the first session after the Olympics with 80 people coming to try handball, which is, it's a big number for a handball training, right? To manage that. Maybe you're thinking, well, it's not so much, but for us it was big. I mean, we had never had so much attention, if you want. I was lucky that I coordinated with a few players, and in terms of player coaches, they could help me out. And we had 6 people doing the coaching in that day, and we did stations, right? So you could do a station for passing, a station for dribbling, station for defense, and so basically the 80 people, we split them in like about 6 groups, and we made them rotate so that they could experience. We couldn't have a normal handball training; it was a bit different, right? Now that number, it obviously it dropped. It didn't sustain for too long. But the second session maybe it was 65 people, and the next session it was like 50 people, and so on. We kept. I mean, people kept changing, right? And some couldn't do 1 week, but they would come the other. The drop off was obvious because some would come, try it, and say, "Oh, this is actually quite hard," and it's not for me. Like maybe the contact bit, right, in England is a bit of a funny one because people from rugby will love it. They played rugby, they'll love it. If they played sports like netball, here in England is very popular in ladies, but it's a contact-free sport. So some of the girls that have played netball, if they come and try handball, they may feel, oh, this is a bit too much for me, right? Because we know we are a bit of a contact sport. So that was the immediate impact from the Olympics. And other than that, clearly, that's been a continuous flow of emails of people that watched it and wanted to try it. Media-wise, we did get a bit of attention during the games. Maybe not as much as we wanted after, right? So it's been back to kind of normal, and it feels a bit of a shame that it's difficult to be on national, impossible really to be in national press. We can get to some of the local papers, but it's difficult to be on the mainstream, London free papers that are in the evening or in the morning. It's really difficult to be there. They just post and publish what they know sells. I mean, that's not about sales because it's free papers, but it's still their model is based on the audience and how they sell their publicity, their commercials. We haven't been in the likes of the Metro. It's called in the morning. The Evening Standard is the most popular one here in London. We haven't managed to be there, even though we may be sending some reports and results and invitations for events. Now, the thing that gathers the attention of the British media, is everything that's related to their GB teams, the Great Britain teams. So we put together a tournament in September last year in the Copper Box, where we invited a team with some Olympian athletes, some of those players that were in the Olympics in the GB team, and that got quite some attention. So we had the BBC coming over and recording, but I remember that after that, then it didn't really get published as much as maybe we wanted, and it did get the attraction, but it didn't consolidate in actually coverage, outside. So it's been a bit disappointing on that front, and clearly we're in 2014 now, and it all feels a bit diluted. Like the momentum has been, going down, and it's we're feeling that we're missing, that the opportunity was there, and it's kind of like doing a bit of CPR, trying to get this back up, and it's hard. It's hard, but I mean, clearly there's been more kids playing it, that's for sure. So there's been growth, and as I said, because the money's been pumped into the association for them to develop in schools. So there are many more, kids that play handball in the country. There are more clubs that have been created, that's for sure too. So there's been growth, and there's been, there's a new club down in Brighton. There's new clubs that are doing very well in Coventry that they've just managed to actually get promoted. So there's more, participation for sure. Yeah. Now, it's difficult to say how much successful it's been. I think the legacy work can only be evaluated when we look at a bit of a longer term, and in 10 years, and we look back and we say, right, 2009 there was not much. 2012 Olympics, and then we're gonna have to look at a point in 2020 or maybe 15 first to see next year where do we stand. Is that growth gonna be sustainable? Is that continue to grow as we all want? And so for us, an example as well of the the loss of momentum, which is kind of partial fault of all of us involved, is I was saying we have 3 men's and 2 ladies. Well, the extra teams that we made, so that was in the back of the Olympics, right? So before the Olympics, we had 2 men's and 1 ladies senior, right? I'm talking about adults. And I was the one that pushed for that creation of the second team and the men's, by the way. I was the one that started coaching them, and that I started seeing the need for expansion. But after the Olympics, thanks to that group of 8 people that showed up, maybe the drop-off was about, there were like 25% left, so that stayed and continued coming. So we made an extra team on the men's and an extra team on the ladies. So that made us go to 3 and to 2. And we still have the ladies, but the third men's team, it's lost a bit of power. It's lost, like, maybe we had at some point 15 members that were quite regular, and we've been going down to like the 10, to the 8, to the 6. Like we're losing them, and the reason for that is because from a competition stand, there's not much to offer to that team yet at this stage, and something that may change next season. But we're in discussions with the association because there were only 2 divisions, right? So you would have the Super 8, as you know it, which is the national first league. Yeah. And then we have a regional development league, which is the 2nd division. So this is where our second team plays. Now, what do we have with the third team? Nothing. I mean, there was a point after the Olympics where there was so much enthusiasm from so many beginners teams that in London, Rise have experienced a similar growth, and they also went to 3 men's and 2 ladies. So we were doing friendly tournaments for those beginners, and I remember doing at least 3 or 4 throughout the year. But it was one-offs, right? You would do in a weekend. Risley brings the third team, we bring our third team, and some other teams would bring maybe their second team that were beginners, and they would have a tournament. Now that, unfortunately, last year it's got to be lost, and the reason for that is because the teams are struggling. They don't get that members to come that often anymore. Maybe the people that were organizing all of that get a little bit tired, or some people have to move on and leave the country for different reasons. But because there's no clear structure on what can be offered to them. Now, next season, there are talks, I think it's pretty much confirmed, that there's going to be an extra layer. So there's going to be first division, second division, and some sort of a third division. Now, the names for that are to be confirmed. There's talks that the second one is going to be called championship, so that, it kind of follows a little bit the football structure, where you have the Premier League, and then the championship is like the second division. But that's perfect for us if they allow us to have the second team in that second division. Then we would be sending the third team in the third division, right? Because that makes sense. and if you have competition to offer, then they'll continue coming. Because the problem is if they come to training, they enjoy it, but everyone wants to compete. Everyone wants to play a game and show that they can win. You know,
Yeah.
only training cannot sustain the sport. So that's where we've lost a bit the momentum, and we're trying now to recover it. Let's see if it's not too late.
Yeah, hopefully it's early. Hopefully, I surely hope you'll make it and show to them how awesome handball is and how amazing is that it played. In this whole story of yours, Jordi, do you have any funny stories from like the court or outside, or like any funny moments that you keep with you and always tell people?
Well, I mean, funny one. I'm not sure if it's funny or not, but I happened to play with Iñaki Urdangarin in the first team of Barcelona,
Uh-huh.
uh, which was, as I said, was that time when the dream team, right? With I don't know if you know Iñaki Urdangarin. He was, you know, he's been unfortunately in the press for good and for bad things, and he was part of the team that's the Spanish national team that won the bronze medal in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
That was a huge success. I think one of the first medals the Spanish national team won. You know, he was a right back, fantastic player, but then got married with the daughter of the King of Spain, who's now abdicated. So that was in the pink press, you know, in the kind of in the media as a crazy thing. There was a lot of coverage and attention, and unfortunately, recently it's got involved on some sort of scandal of you know, some fraud, and it's been in the Spanish press for the bad side of things, but which is a shame because I know him personally and he's a really nice guy and he's a good friend of mine. But you know, these kind of things, you never know where it comes from. That
Yeah.
you know, you get into some sort of trouble, and you got some partners, and you know, you might have been, you know, sent through that, you know, wrong road, and you know, so that's kind of an anecdote. Other funny stories, I don't know. There's so many adventures that I've experienced with, you know, as I said, when I was in the U.S., I went down to the Pan Am's champs with the U.S. national team, not as a player, but as an assistant coach. So that was a fantastic experience in Brazil. I think we only made it fourth. We lost against Greenland for that third slot, unfortunately. But you know, Greenland has also a pretty decent background with some Danish influence there in their handball.
Yeah.
Uh, Other stories, I mean, with Great Danes, so the London GD, as we know it now. There's so many trips in Europe that we've made. You know, we've been in Greece, in Italy, Norway. There's funny stories in Norway. I cannot disclose all of them.
Okay, no problem.
We've been in the press for the right reasons, not necessarily for the on the court, more a bit of
Yeah.
court impact. But yeah, so there's been some funny stories, and that's been playing the Challenge Cup, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So as English champions, we have the opportunity to play in Europe, which is fantastic, and it's far away from our possibilities because as a team, you got to think that we are amateur, right? And the players that come and join us might have played at some more or less decent level in their leagues, but we're talking about, you know, the best we've had from Germany played in the third, fourth division, mostly in France. Some people playing in their also, you know, third, fourth level, which is not bad. But you know, you go out and play against the, you know, the third or fourth team in Bosnia or Greece, and it's still, you know, they play professionally there. I mean, we went to Ankara last September to play against the second, third best team in Turkey. You know, they train every day, they get paid. It's a different story, right?
Yeah.
We also, I mean, and the highest, I suppose, the highest we've played 2 years ago was against Kolding, the Danish champion that has superstar players still in their team, like Kasper Witt in the goal, Jorgensen, Kim Anderson from Sweden. So we were playing 2 games in Denmark against a fantastic team that's been champions of Denmark and has been playing Champions League this year. You know, the Kolding Copenhagen. So that's who we faced
Yeah.
2 years ago in September. It was a fantastic experience, right?
And if you don't mind me asking, how was it? How did you do? And how would you say your team did facing a big team?
Well, it was really hard, right? I mean, for them, it felt like a training, You know, it was a first round, and they didn't push 100%. Um, you know, the difference is so big that they can play a very fast handball where even if we go and try to contact them, by the time we get there, they're so fast that the ball is gone, and
Yeah.
we played a lot fast break, and so we lost big time. We lost by I think 20 goals difference, but you know, this is really it's probably the difference is even bigger than that because we're talking about a professional team with superstars that play in the Olympics like Kim Anderson, and most of us have played in our countries, and I'm perhaps a little bit the exception. And even though I played Barcelona, I wasn't a superstar there, right? I was just a worker. I was a junior member that was lucky to be there. So you know, I cannot make a huge impact either. We're talking about people that train now every day. For the last 6-7 years, I've been training maybe once or twice a week. So you know, it just cannot be compared. So we did all right. I mean, as an experience, I mean, we had some players that, you know, there's a right back, young kid from Barcelona as well. He also played in the youth teams, and he scored 6 goals against Golding. So that is amazing, right? For his
Yeah.
CV, like he scored more goals than Kim Anderson in that game. So
Well,
again, because Kim Anderson probably didn't push it too much, but I remember Anderson scoring 3, and our teammate Francesco Redera scored 6. So that was amazing for him.
Jordi, how do you manage the glue that you use for handball? Do you give it a huge importance, and how did you apply? Do you have any tips for newcomers in handball to work with the glue in the hand to start?
Well, the glue is a big issue here in England, and not necessarily from the positive side. We are having problems because, as you know, the glue is a fundamental element of our game.
Yes.
You know, not for when you're a kid and you start learning. I wouldn't advise, you know, the young kids to start playing with glue. That's not how you learn the game. You just need to learn the game first. It's about passing, moving, jumping, running, etc.
Yep.
But yeah, from the stage of when, you know, under 17s primarily, I suppose, and even under 15 sometimes. But you know, you start using the glue. It's a fundamental piece, especially with small-handed players like myself. In fact, I don't have a very big hand, and therefore the glue makes a whole lot of difference. You know, to avoid the ball being slippery as well. No, plus to give you the edge of being able to spin it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that being in front of the keeper to look for some tricky shots. Tips, I would say, when you start using it, the typical effect of the glue is that the ball goes down. So it's kind of using a bit the fingertips, right? You know, you want to release the ball without kind of keeping the fingers attached. It's kind of the fingertips go a bit up, and the ball flows. That's how you kind of start getting the control. But still, I mean, it's not easy, and it takes practice, right? So to spin the ball one side or the other, it's about practicing. I mean, I remember having the luck to you know, the chance to play with Matthias Franzen, who was a Swedish player on the left wing, and he had an amazing spin shot from the left wing. He would just jump and spin it, and I learned a lot from him. Although I
Mm-hmm.
can't really reproduce as good as he used to do it, right?
No
But
problem.
when I said the glue is a big issue for us, is because in England, because the culture of handball is not so spread, the venues, the sport halls complain. They don't
Yeah.
they don't understand. Like the glue, as you know, leaves some marks when you play. The ball is very sticky, and you
Yeah.
throw it to the floor, or you dribble it, or some people put it on the side of the shoes, and when you fall, you know, there's some stains, some marks. After a game, you would see the court full of little sticky spots, right? And that's been a problem. That's been a problem. In fact, to the point that last year in June, we had to leave a venue. We were given some ultimatums. They told us, guys, don't use this thing. It's ruining our floor. We cannot wash it. The teams that come afterwards from other sports complain. It was a school, so the teachers, the students, and we had so many warnings saying, guys, either you stop using these or you're out, that in fact we ended up being out. So we don't have many venues in England, and in London I would say there's a handful of places you can go and play proper handball. I'm talking about the proper 40 meters long by 20. You know,
Yeah.
the problem in England is there's lots of sports halls that have been designed on the back of, you know, badminton courts. So you would have a square venue, not a long one. There's not so much. I mean, now futsal is growing, but there's no such a mentality. So most of the sports halls are 4 or maybe 6 badminton courts. That's not enough for us. For the proper handball, you need at least 8, like 4 and 4 badminton courts. So we had one of these venues in Bethnal Green. It's a little bit in East London, and we lost it. It was a great venue with like a good 200 spectator seats, because that's another issue. Some of the venues don't have any place for spectators. So luckily, time-wise, we were kicked out from this venue in Bethnal Green at the same time that we managed to get access to the Copperbox Arena. So that was quite handy, because they reopened the park in 2013, and we've been working hard to be there. So we were the chosen club to be the hosts, to be the tenants of the Copperbox Arena, and we can now discuss a little bit about that. I mean, it's not been as successful perhaps as we wanted it. It's been a difficult relationship, because there's so many pressures from events, from other sports. The arena is so full in terms of everyone wants to have a piece of that cake. That we've been lucky enough to have at least the 2 trainings that we always had on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's been good. Although we wanted more, we wanted to progress. We wanted to try to get access to three nights. That couldn't happen, at least in the first instance. And also, you've seen that some of our league games are being played there, but not all of them. Not all of them, because some of the weekends that we may need it, it's just not available. There's events, there's concerts, there's boxing, there's all sorts of different things happening there. So it's been difficult, but obviously we won't complain. We are still training and playing games in an Olympic arena, but it hasn't been easy.
I understand. So, tell me something. With this title that you mentioned, and I wanted to clarify that for our fans that are watching, that with the Super 8 title, did you qualify for the play the EHF Challenge Cup next season, or are you going to play next season?
Yes. Yeah, the champion of England qualifies for. Well, it would have been champion of Great Britain, although the Scottish teams this year withdrew, and they said no, we're not going to go to Europe, so we don't want to play that playoff. It was the first time that would have happened, but it was meant to be in June, a playoff between the Scottish champion and the English champion to decide who would take the 1 slot for EHF Cup. So we're lucky enough to be the ones. I mean, we need to confirm that. There's still a chance to say, hey, we don't want it, but I think we'll take it. We'll take it, even though we know it's hard and chances are we're going to lose by big-time goals difference. We're just gonna have that experience. We just want to really push ourselves. You never know. Our team is always changing from season to season, because there's new people arriving to London, and you never know what you're gonna get. So we want to keep pushing it up, and the EHF wants us to do so. I've played, I think, a good 5 or 6 years in Challenge Cup, and it was, I think, the 7th from the club. So EHF was saying, guys, you've been playing 7 years in Challenge Cup, you need to move up. But that being said, we never managed to go through too far, right? Because again, we're talking about playing against professional teams, even though they're 4th or 5th in their countries, like Bosnia and Romania or Norway. They're not top handball countries, but they're still, decent level, and compared to an amateur level, it's a lot. So yeah, to confirm your question, we're gonna probably go to EHF Cup. That's played in September. So it still leaves 3 slots, I think it is, for the other men teams that can go to Challenge Cup, which is the one below. So I believe, I'm not sure if it's confirmed, but there would be Salford. I think Cambridge has managed to squeeze in there, and it's not 100% sure who will have the third slot, because it's a combination of, it could be the 4th in the league, or is it for the cup loser there? But I mean, Salford and us were in the final, right? So it would need to go into the semi-final teams. I think they're gonna pick the 4th in the league. I think Rislip will go to Europe again, but that's to be confirmed by the federation.
Right, so I'll be waiting for the news, and since they come up, we will send to our viewers. Jordi, did you watch the World Championship in Serbia in last year? I want to know if you watched, and what are your thoughts on seeing for the first time a team from America becoming world champion?
So you're talking about the handball. I mean, the ladies, yeah, the ladies with Brazil winning, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, I don't follow it as much as I do follow the men's side. Obviously, you know, I'm a big fan, and you know, I follow the Spanish national team whenever they play. I was lucky enough to be their team guide in the Olympics. So I was here in London as a volunteer with the Spanish handball men's team. So it
Okay.
wasn't a great tournament because the French kicked us out in quarterfinals. But so to answer your question, I did watch just a little bit of that Serbia competition, but it was amazing. It was amazing to see Brazil win. I must say, you know, clearly a big surprise because it's not something that happens. It hasn't happened before. So, but it shows a lot, and it shows how developing countries like yours are coming a long way. And you know, I was in the Pan Am Champs for the men's in Aracaju, and I saw Brazil and Argentina also giving a hard time to many European countries. So clearly that's a big sign. But the ladies managed to really step up, and it was great. It was great for the sport to see that Brazil is doing a good job, and it's you know up and coming nation for sure.
Certainly. And did you watch also the Champions League final between Flensburg and Kiel? And who were you? I believe you were supporting Barcelona in the final four. But what were your thoughts on seeing Flensburg winning the championship?
Well, again, you know, I was there. I was there watching it live that weekend
Okay.
2 weeks ago. So it was painful for me personally as a Barcelona fan,
Uh-huh.
especially in the way it happened, right? But it was remarkable. It was remarkable to watch Flensburg come back first against Barcelona from 6 goals down with like 8 minutes to go. Managed to get to the extra time. Managed to get to the penalties, and with the young kids in the wing, just managed to win the penalties. It's just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then in the final again, I mean, Flensburg were a little bit the underdog, you know, a team that's never won it, perhaps a bit like Hamburg last year, and they managed again to come back from 6 goals down against Kiel in the final in Germany. With the public, you know, the spectators are always a big majority of Kiel fans, and it's always like that every year because they know, you know, they know in advance that they tend to be there, right? So they book their tickets early, and it was huge. I mean, to see Flensburg, I was happy because obviously once we lost it, then I wanted Flensburg to win just for the sake of the underdog. Also, they were playing in blue and red,
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, I wanted Flensburg to win, and it seemed like in the first half, first 15 minutes, they were down by 6, and you're like, oh my god, this is going to be you know, a terrible final. But actually, you know, slowly. I mean, that's clearly, you know, thanks to the coach input. I think. I mean, to get them back into the game, and you know, they have quality. They have a, you know, very good goalkeeping with Matthias Andersson. That, by the way, I was at some stage in Barcelona when he came for 6 months to replace an injured goalkeeper. So I know Matthias pretty well, and you know, he was outstanding. He was outstanding in the 2 games. Made a difference, and then the rest of the team just follow, right? I mean, they've got great Danish, you know, Swedish players, and you know, it was good. It was good for the sport. It was good to see someone else, you know, winning the championship.
Totally. Now, when does the next season start? Did the EHA give you any dates in which 2014, 2015 season is going to start? And did you manage to talk to them? Did they give you a date in which the next season is going to start?
The the right answer, as far as I know, is not yet, which is not good. We should be having the dates for next season, but in their defense, there's been a bit of a shaky situation with the director of competitions having to step down in the middle of the season. So, you know, in a transition period, it's kind of understandable to a point that there's no final dates yet. You know, the structure of the calendar always takes a while, and there's some backs and forths. Some people say, hold on, remember that weekend there's some, you know, youth competition, or be careful that other weekend there's something else going on. And the answer, I mean, we know it's going to be some point in September. Um, there's been talks in the past to make it happen a bit earlier, end of August, but I think it's a stretch. I think September is when it makes more sense. Some clubs are not that happy with that because September tends to be a month where there's a lot of incomers, a lot of arrivals, And back in the day when we used to have a split national league between North and South, and there were some teams from the universities. I remember the start of the season would be a bit later, would be more towards October. And this is again because a lot of players would arrive in the end of September, beginning of October for the teams in the universities. Now this has changed because the universities teams have been put a little bit aside. So we're talking about Oxford, Cambridge University potentially. There's a Cambridge team, but it's not linked to the university. So yeah, the start of the season should be September, and more towards the end. If you think that we've got the EHF in the beginning, first, I mean second weekend I think of September is EHF Cup in Europe. So I think they're gonna kind of synchronize it and make it start in the third weekend, fourth weekend of September.
Okay. And did you also watch the European Championship this year in January, the France one? Were you watching it? And what are your thoughts on seeing France, that amazing team with Nikola Karabatic, with to me is one of the great players? What are your thoughts on seeing France beating Denmark and with the whole thing that had happened?
Yeah, I mean it was another surprising final. And I say another because it was not the first time the Danes would lose for such a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
It happened in Spain as well. I was live watching it in Spain. The final Spain-Denmark was an unbelievable event for us. I mean, it was unexpected. I mean, the Danish had been playing fantastic handball throughout the tournament, and we knew Spain was playing at home, but still shocking to see them lose by such a large difference. And it was just one of these games where Spain would just nail it and everything would be perfect, and then Denmark would do everything horrible. And I think this year in January something similar happened, right? The French just played fantastic and they were unstoppable, and the Danes just didn't manage to cope in front of their spectators, perhaps because of the pressure. You're playing at home, and I don't know. It was strange. But as you said, Karabatic seems to be back at his maybe not the top of his level, but at a very decent level, and so are most of the French with the new right back, the young lad that plays for I think Toulouse, Van Tepot, I think, and he played fantastic handball, and just the whole team. I mean, the French are always there, right? They've been a powerhouse in handball for the last 10 years, and they won the Olympics here in London. As much as I hated that moment that we only dropped one goal for the Spanish, but yeah, I mean they've been there back and forth, and sometimes they take a little break like they did in the Spanish sort of World Cup when it was hosted in Spain. But otherwise they're back there, right? They're again very strong, and I think that reflects from the league, right? The French league is getting bigger and better and stronger, so that helps them. I mean, unfortunately, is against what's happening in Spain, where due to the crisis and the whole European situation, it's hit the real economy, and the sponsors have kind of flown away, and the clubs are struggling to pay. Therefore, when there's no money, the talent flies, right? And some of the players, even some of the talented Spanish players, were in Paris Saint-Germain, in Nantes, in Toulouse. So the talent is flying, and now Hungary, another big league where I have good friends in there, people that I played against, and some of the coaches that are there are Spanish. So it is the sad reality of Spain, and I guess it's the contrast with France, which is getting better, stronger. They do a very good job with marketing, and I think they got the support of the media. That helps them. I mean, I know handball is being watched by, originally was Canal Plus, now I think it's beIN Sports from the Qatar money from the Middle East. But in any case, they do have the support of the media. They're constantly in the press. And I was down in Paris, not far away in time, because I work with the French market. So I went to see the last game in the league, Paris Saint-Germain against Saint-Rennes, and they've got a really great show put in there. I mean, maybe they're struggling in Paris because they don't have the great venue they would want. They have an in-between, like the two stadiums they use are not big enough, and the large one in Paris, Bercy, is potentially too big for some some of the league games. So I think they're looking at finding the right venue, and maybe it should be the Copper Box. Maybe Paris should come to play in London.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Giorgio, do you have any superstitions before going into the court, like stepping with the right foot or using certain accessories that you find bring you luck? Is it a big
Yeah.
deal for you?
No, I have to say I'm pretty chilled with that. I've seen lots of people with lots of superstitions, and for me, my big thing is my lucky number is 7, as I mentioned. We were supposed to start at 7. We were a little bit late today, but
Yeah.
yeah, my lucky number is 7. And I think I've luckily wore it across my career in Barcelona youth teams all the way in the New York City team. Sorry, New York Athletic Club. I wore number 7, and I do wear it in London GD. So I think that's my main thing, right? The only situation where I didn't was in the first team of Barcelona, where Iñaki Urdangarin was wearing it, and when he retired after that fantastic season, they hang the number. You know, when they retire, the number, and it's kind of like it becomes a legend, and that number cannot be used by anyone else in the club. So then I
Okay.
stepped in, and I was like, well, I guess I'll have to wear another one. So I was wearing number 9 the first year, which was amazing as well. I was in replacement for Mateo Garralda, another great Spanish handballer, he was coaching in a Spanish club, is not gone to Romania. But anyway, and then I used number 18, which funny enough, it's a bit of a superstitious one that some people do not want to wear because it's like the 666. So, but it was all right. I mean, it was all
Oh,
right. I've been very superstitious with other numbers. I just want to have my number 7. That's all.
and what is the origin of this number 7? Was this the day when you were born? What brought you to the number 7?
Actually, it links back to this player. It links back to Iñaki Urdangarin. When I was, I think, before going to Barcelona, I was about 12 years old, and my father, managed to meet with him sort of like randomly, like saw him in the street in Barcelona somewhere, and thought, oh, my son plays handball, and would you mind, signing an autograph? And I remember having my first handball autograph was from Iñaki Urdangarin with the number 7,
Okay.
and since then I decided to go with it, and I loved it. And then, even when I follow footballers, I tend to kind of obviously look at who's number 7, and there's been good and bad times. Figo worried at Barcelona football team, but
Yeah.
then he left us and went to Madrid, so that's really bad. But yeah, I've been a big fan of number 7.
And as you are in England, do you often go to see, like, you mentioned the other sports, you mentioned football, rugby, cricket, netball, field hockey. Do you often go and watch these other sports?
I've been, I've been in Wembley for football. Actually, in a great occasion, it was the Barcelona final against Manchester United. So I can't complain with that. That was a great game. Not so often in Premier League. It's always hard. I mean, you need to get some contacts or spend the money to go to see, the Chelseas, the Arsenals, etc. I've been in Twickenham for a rugby game. I've been in Oval for a cricket game. So I've
Yeah.
done a kind of like the trying through. Netball, I haven't really watched much. I've seen them practice. Not a sport that excites me too much. I mean, it's got its own thing, but yeah. So in England, I guess some get more attracted or less attracted. I mean, I was watching yesterday England play New Zealand in rugby on TV, and
Yeah.
no, it's just not my thing at all. It's all about power. I mean, there is some tactics, but it's so much about power, right? That
Yeah.
yeah, uh, I've watched it once, twice, not more, not a big regular fan of. But I love sports. So that being said, on TV, I sometimes watch it and so on.
And do you also read about them in the newspapers, in the TV? Do you also follow certain teams in England, like let's say between Chelsea and Arsenal? Which one would you support and follow and read?
Yeah, I follow a bit on the press, of course, and when you read the sports section. If you make me choose, I'm more of an Arsenal fan, although it's painful because I mean, well, now finally they won the FA Cup, but it's been a while that they didn't. I mean, I'm just a fan of the culture, or the, if you want, the philosophy of Arsene Wenger, and I think I feel it's quite a bit similar to what we try to do at Barcelona. With more about growing people from the bottom, sort of getting the kids, the talent get better in the club structure. I think Arsenal's been missing the balance that Barcelona also signed some stars, but we try to do a combination of big signings with some youth talent like Iniestas and Xavis and so on. So when Fabregas was in Arsenal, I really liked it, the way they were playing, and back in the day they still had Thierry Henry and the likes. It was a proper really good squad. I don't like the approach of Chelsea and Madrid, which is we've got the money, let's just sign the biggest all through and let's make this team champion. This is how Chelsea's managed to win the Champions League, and Madrid managed to go back again this year and won the 10th. So it's just it's a bit sad, in my opinion, to go that way. And it proves that if you got the money, you can manage and end up winning a bit like Manchester City as well, and not my type. So I'm more keen on Arsenal, and then it will be followed by Liverpool, I suppose.
All right. Everybody, this was JORDI FERRER-TORRAS, player of London GD Handball Club. This interview you can watch later on YouTube. This video has been instantly uploaded to YouTube and on Canal Handball channel on YouTube. Just go there, you can watch the interview. If you have any further questions to JORDI you would like to ask him, just send us an email. We will forward it to him, and for sure you'll get your question duly answered. JORDI, thank you very much for joining us in a hangout on a Sunday. On behalf of everybody else in Canal Handball, we really thank you, and just send a message to your fans to keep watching handball and start following your club and your activities.
You want me to leave a message?
Yes, leave a message to our fans and our viewers.
Sure. So, well, thank you first of all, Rodrigo, for giving me this chance, and I think it's great what you're doing, and in all senses, not only for the Hangouts, but also your coverage in social media, Twitter, Facebook, and the likes. And yeah, for everyone there watching, I would say, keep an eye for England, and if you are visiting London, give us a shout. Yeah, everyone is welcome at our trainings, and I think offering the Olympic venue as an experience, we just recently had a Swedish under-16 ladies team coming and visit, and so everyone is welcome here. We want this sport to grow in England because it's got the elements that we believe public will love. We just need to keep pushing and keep making good ideas like this one to get to know, and I guess just keep improving and trying to find ways. I mean, the key is going to be on the investing side, right? We need some support from partners, from companies, and I'm not suggesting I want to do like Chelsea, but we do need a little bit of help to get the structure better, to get to the media. I mean, that being, is it going to be Sky or BT Sports or whatever it is, Eurosport? But we need to try to get the handball on the media here in England. So any help, any ideas are welcome, and we are easily reachable through our website, londongdhandball.co.uk. So thank you, everybody, and feel free to contact us.
So wish you a good night and see you next time. Bye.
Cheers, Rodrigo. Have a good one there.
You too.
Bye-bye. Cheers.